Insulting job offers. What's your story? I'll go first. This happened a few years ago, but something reminded me, so I thought I'd share. I have an MFA in my chosen profession. I'm a union journeyman with, at the time, 20+ years experience. I applied for a gig and the employer pounced on my resume. They loved my skills and experience. I knew damn good and well that I could really help this organization take their product to the next level. Then their senior management got into the act. They decreed that, until I had 1,000 hours working for them, I was considered a trainee, and would be paid the training rate. Excuse me? Baking powder? Trainee rate for running a crew of 9? By Felicia. 4 rounds of in-person interviews over weeks. For an offer of $35K, less than my current job. But they offered a company car that I would have to pay for and maintain. That's a hard no from me, bud. Maintenance supervisor I used to work with, I owed him a favor. He asked me to apply to his new company and go through the interview process. I was already in the process of job hunting and getting offers, which were slightly above market average. He got me and a few others to do this. It was so he could convince his boss other companies were paying much more than they were. When I get to the interview with his boss and they asked me what my salary expectations were. I said X, Y, Z companies offered me $XXK a year. His boss laughed, so I opened my email and showed him the signed offer sheet from 2 companies I got in the week early. He stopped laughing when my lowest offer was $30K more than what they were. MFA in my chosen profession. I'm a union journeyman. I can honestly say I've never heard of these two anywhere near each other, let alone applied to the same person. Think Mario the plumber on stage in a tutu, doing ballet. Open mouth smile. They decreed that, until I had 1,000 hours working for them, I was considered a trainee, and would be paid the training rate. Moronic doesn't even begin to describe this. I'll play. This goes back a ways. Around 10 years ago, the role was listed by a small manufacturing company in a mid-sized town asking for an IT admin, supporting an office of 100 on-site, remote staff. Requirements included 510 years of experience, BS in comp science, and a fistful of certs. The offer was competitive pay and great culture. The interview was awful. I had over 15 years of experience. Approached the interview professionally, dressed in a suit, resume in hand with letters of reference, transcripts, the works. The office manager was the hiring manager and interviewer. The interviewer insulted me at every opportunity, from my choice of attire to the choice of font, MS Arial, in my cover letter and resume. The role quickly expanded to not only IT admin, but marketing manager, social media manager, customer service and field service, requiring 75% travel, the 24th of July 365 on-call support, and 100% availability with a 30-minute response time. All for the competitive salary of $28,000 per year. I laughed, said, "No. You need an entire IT department and a much larger budget." Stood up and walked out while the office manager yelled insults at me that I would never amount to anything. Apparently the company found someone willing to take the role, as the company still exists. $32K a year for a full-time, possibly more, job that would utilize both my BA and post-grad college-level certificate in journalism and social media. 10 years of experience in one field, 2 years in the other. No benefits. This happened last year, 2023. A recruiter reached out to me for a remote position. The ad said $76K annually, so I thought okay. I was making $4045K annually, so wow. What a jump. I have a BA and a heavy background in customer service, client relations, collections and data entry. They were looking for a project coordinator to overlook business relations and things of the sort. I attend the Zoom interview, and the manager is excited. There were 3 other supervisors in there and they all seemed nice. They all seemed hyped up about how excited they are to meet me. And my credentials are very impressive. She goes on and on about the company, and the work culture and the amazing benefits. She goes, "How do you feel about joining our team?" I go, "The company is a great fit. I'd love to be a part of the team." They start smiling, grinning, then manager goes, "Okay, let me send your offer via email so you can sign it before we end our meeting." I go, "Okay. Send it on over. I'll sign it." Ping, I get a notification. I get the email offer and my heart starts pounding, tears of joy. The salary rate was $12. $12 stinking dollars for a job they required a bachelor's degree and experience for. Woman facepalming, medium dark skin tone. I go, "There's a typo on the letter. It says the rate is $12. The group goes silent and the manager said, "Yes. That is the starting rate and you can go up." Me. The ad the recruiter sent said $75,000 annually. The math isn't adding up. Manager. OMG, I think that was a typo. Me. So, my credentials, experience in this interview, and you're willing to pay me $12? Manager. Yes. But like I said, you can get incra. Me. What year are we living in? Them. Silent and confused. Me. Okay, bye. I was livid, tears of joy, loudly crying. $50K a year at 50 hours a week. Overseas in the Middle East with a clearance. I giggled and never responded to them. I was working as a contractor for a company in a role that I have a full BS degree from an accredited university plus 20 years of experience. The contract position was supposed to be for 12-16 weeks, filling in for a staff member that was on a temporary medical leave. During this time, I found out there were 2 open positions that had been open for over a year. During my assignment, 2 more positions were vacated, so I was asked to take on the roles of those positions as well. I took on the additional work and performed all very well. I made several operational adjustments that drastically improved efficiencies in these roles. The other coworkers would often ask me to help them to improve their skills in a like manner. Now I am quite a few years older than the other employees in the department, but I still crushed all the performance requirements. I decided to apply for a full-time position, one of the 3 jobs I was successfully performing, and went through a 6-week interview, evaluation gauntlet. Finally, the HR manager came to me after I had been working there for 22 weeks and told me that I just wasn't what they were looking for and ended my assignment. I found out they went through 3 more contractors and even 1 new hire that quit 2 weeks of being hired. I have no idea why I wasn't a fit for a job. 3 jobs that I did successfully. I suspect it was due to my age. Pouting. Not so much an offer, but a FTJ interview. It had to be over 30 years ago, and I was interviewing at a bakery for some admin position. I was already unsure whether it would work because I have never learned to drive. And the buses in the town where I grew up suck. Like running once an hour suck. And there was no way I'd make my transfer suck. It got worse when the woman interviewing me says the position is 6 days a week. No holidays off. No benefits. And I wanted to ask what sort of sweatshop they were running there. But I just said no thank you and walked out. Applied for office positions from being a driver. President, CEO of the company I drive for made me do a typing test. I asked him if he even read my resume or looked at my cover letter, or talked with anyone in the office where I wrote half our driver training materials. All for a position that was almost half my wage. Of course I didn't find that out until later. I was told they weren't hiring as they didn't need anyone, but I would have been the first top pick. Only for the person to quit and a new employee showed up on Monday. A few years ago I interviewed for an assistant manager role at a certain dollar store chain. They offered me $10 per hour. I was already making $14 per hour being a minor department manager at a major grocery store chain. I was lead planner of advertising for a Fortune 500 but moved into a consulting role part-time for a smaller marketing agency part-time because I had some ill family. We agreed on a fixed rate of $45 an hour and a max of 25 hours a week. Honestly, a great deal for them. I did more and more advanced work in 25 hours a week than a full-time specialist would have done in 40. Meanwhile, I got to see how poorly the full-time staff was treated. Working major overtime hours without overtime pay. Talking 7 days a week. Minimal vacation. An open office environment. I'd been there 2 years and could have made more. But having 4 days a week off was nice for my mental health. They suggested bringing me on full-time. And I was willing to listen. The offer was only $5,000 more than I was making a year as a part-timer. And to start out as a new employee with 5 days of PTO. $5,000 to work a minimum of 99 more days a year. Probably more. I had to hold back the laughter and just told them they were $35,000 under what I made at my old job. And 13 days of PTO behind it. Plus I saw how many weekends they worked. Their best response was, BB but the health insurance, and I informed them I would be finding a new job, and they could actively begin searching for my replacement. I ended up finding another job, but COVID hit before I officially took it. They released me from my consulting role, and I got unemployment for a long while. This happened 10 years ago. For years, I was in a position that I basically created, developed and grew, only to realize along the way that it was really two marginally related positions that needed to be split. Management listened and we did that. It was a good solution. A few years later, my boss left and a new director came in from outside the organization. She decided, without speaking to me or the person who had the other half of my original job, that it was ridiculous to have two people with the same job title, and so she would combine those two jobs into a single position. She never asked anything about why we had the arrangement we did. My coworker and I found out about this decision when everyone else did. When the new, now combined, position was publicly posted, my coworker was insulted and incensed and quit almost immediately. I was told that if I wanted the new position, I would have to formally apply and interview just like anyone else. Yes, the job that I had created and had been doing for 17 years. I went through the application process and the interview. I was then offered the position at a $20,000 per year pay cut from what I was currently making. I said they would either have to pay me at least what I was currently making, or more since it was a bigger job, or I would have to decline. I think that's when they realized that despite my years of requesting it, nobody else was cross-trained in my job and nobody had any real grasp of how I did what I did. They ended up hiring me into my job, but that supervisor really made an effort to try to irritate me out of that job for the next 10 years. I was very well liked and she hated that. She was visibly jealous. The grant that funded my position was recently reallocated by the funder. So I've been laid off since October 1st. That director was no longer my boss, though, but I'm sure she's the reason there was no other position I could be moved into. I am an expert in a particular field. I have developed tools which are either used across the industry around the world or have been replicated. Well over a decade of experience. I got contacted from a headhunter who was trying to sell me on a job. I wasn't looking for a job, but I wasn't working, so thought I may as well chat with them. The company ended up being a small newish outfit trying to get into the industry. They wanted me to come on board and help with their new development team they hired to train them in domain knowledge and system architecture, etc. They sent through their contract, which had 3 pages around it, which basically said all my previous and perpetual future domain knowledge I obtain is relinquished up until 10 years after the contract end date, as well as a thorough non-compete. I sent them an email basically saying, you're hiring me to bring in and transfer this knowledge. These sections will need to be adjusted in order for me to come on board. Only communication I got back: this is an industry standard contract. It wasn't, we are relinquishing the job offer, good luck ever getting a job in this industry. Rolling on the floor laughing. Applied and won an awesome sounding job. Found out that, in fact, it was going to be 30% less pay than advertised, and instead of the project lead, they were only going to give me the data entry part of the job. Gone was all the awesome travel, meeting people and learning a new skill set, and only for a term versus permanent. They were shocked I went and worked for a different part of the company, who offered me an increase in pay and job responsibilities. Plus I could pay my mortgage and eat. I am not even getting called for many interviews, so my experience was one of those generic emails. The rejection was literally 5 lines of text and then 3 full paragraphs to fill in a feedback survey explaining why it is really important to participate. Like, when I got 0 feedback. The audacity of that. There was a local delivery job for newspapers. It paid $30 for 4 hours of work of just dropping off newspapers. It was 1 a.m. 5 a.m. The lady wanted to meet me in a parking lot. She was wearing odd clothing too. Then I asked a few questions about training, if any needed, and she told me I would ride with her for a few days, then I'll go on my own. And if I wanted, I could pay someone else to deliver the papers and keep a cut of the money. I asked her who her boss was, and she gave me a name and number. Turns out it's some weird pyramid scheme LMAO. I also interviewed for the company who prints the newspaper to sell newspaper ads. Apparently it paid $2,000 a week. We spoke over the phone. It's a 1099 job, and I would just drive around to businesses all day and sell the newspaper ads. I asked for proof that it's possible to actually make $8,000 a month doing this, and she said she will show me during the interview, and gave an address and to enter through the back door in an alley. I show up to the job interview 15 minutes early. The door is locked and building has a closed sign up on the front. I wait 10 minutes after the interview time and went home. I got a nasty email about being a no-show to the interview 30 minutes later, rolling on the floor laughing. Had a panel interview where the company receptionist asked me if I knew how to use the internet. I applied online and was doing work as a website designer. This was a while back. I was offered an IT job as technology manager. Basically the job entailed managing everything except, somehow, the IT staff. I would be responsible for anything and everything having to do with the network, phone systems, servers, backup systems, desktops, laptops, mobile devices, printers, you name it. Everything from identifying the need, purchasing, setup, installation, maintenance, managing depreciation curves, BYOD services, VPN, etc. Basically the only thing I wasn't in charge of was the staff. Scheduling, hiring, firing, training, etc. would be handled by the COO, who was located across the country and worked remotely. My staff would have been 5 people, plus myself, to cover 415-ish employees. I would be on call 24/7 to handle any emergencies. They offered me $43,000. I told the, in much more polite words, to put a 1 in front of it and we'd talk. They offered $45,000. I walked. I watched their job listing on Indeed and other recruitment sites for nearly 5 years before it disappeared. When I discovered this, I checked around and found the business had folded. Sucks to be them. This was several years ago and my ire still gets raised thinking about it. It was one of the worst and most disrespectful interviews that I have ever been on. The company had a portfolio analyst position posting with a minimum salary of $75,000 on the CFA website. Having obtained my CFA and wanting to return to financial services, I went to an interview with them. Each of the 3 interviews was roughly an hour long. However, it was very clear they were looking to hire someone with a lowball offer since the employees gave off a weird vibe. During the first or second interview, the COO asked what my current salary was along with my expectations. I was making roughly $60,000 and she ignored my minimum requirements to match their job ad, which made me suspicious. My final interview as with the main principal of the firm and was extremely rude. Even talking to another employee at the firm and saying, "He's not very slick. Is he?" The reason he said that was due to my earnestness and sincerity. When I received the offer a few days after the 3rd interview, it was for $62,000. The offer letter also looked ridiculous in that the various benefits, health and dental, increased the compensation plan to a little over $70,000, below what was advertised in their job description. I also had 3 weeks vacation at my current employer and investment firm only offered 2. Since there would weekends work during quarter end, and which I had no issue with, I tried to negotiate up to 3 weeks to test the company's response. A good company would provide 3 weeks since vacation since there is no financial cost to them and may not reflect the amount of work and hours you actually put in. The COO would not budge. I then decided the company was not worth my time, considering the hours already wasted and their ticky-tack negotiations. The gentleman who arranged the interview called me a few days later inquiring about my pending acceptance. I told him I had not responded because I did not want them to waste my time any further. I basically declined and said I was not interested in communicating further with them due to the games they had played. He also quit within 6 months.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.